Hey everybody, Leah Benson here. Most of this video is going to be a section of a question and answer video of the John Vervaeke Lectern course, Generations of Joy, that Mark Miller did, that he finished a couple of weeks ago at this point. It's a little section that answers one of the questions that I think most therapists who are looking for science to underpin their clinical work want to know. And that question is, what is the point of learning this predictive processing stuff? Because it seems like it kind of takes the humanity out of things. It's math. So how is that really helpful clinically? And more importantly, how does it help us do what we do better? And what Mark says is really the answer to the question that therapists are asking themselves right now as the polyvagal theory is going the way of the dodo. They're asking themselves, what science do I turn to understand this soft science of psychotherapy, psychology, right? So what science do I use to help me understand it? Because everybody ran to the polyvagal theory, and as it turns out, that's just ideology. Now there's predictive processing, and it's computational, and that's kind of what Mark explains. So what science do I turn to understand what I'm doing and to understand how what I'm doing is actually helping people and driving the interventions I choose? And the reason I'm doing this little intro is I felt like I had to work really hard to understand the question that the student had asked Mark and the moderator was reading. So yeah, anyway, once again, this clip is Mark Miller explaining how the science of predictive processing helps therapists understand what they're doing and how what they're doing is actually helping people and driving the interventions that they choose. And here you go.
Sometimes at least when I first heard of predictive processing, I think I had like a little bit of a resistance to it. Mark, you've been a big help in sort of shifting me quite a lot in the other direction. But this sense of like what is alive in the body, the magic in the world, which I think this conversation is helping to foreground a lot of, is one of those things which I hope can be elucidated in Sebastian's question. The computational rigor, however beautiful and insightful, should not mislead us to conclude that we are machines. I was already very happy with John's proposal of the word anticipation in place of prediction. In this word, for me, the alive connection with the world is not lost. And as a therapist, I like the concept of optimal grip to reality very much for explaining the situation to a client and a guide to take the wise action. What therapeutic interventions are affected by the prediction framework that could not be derived from this notion of optimal grip? Are we really computationally, in brackets, optimized as prediction machines? And I think importantly in this discussion, what are the boundaries of this framework? Where is there still space for the magic sauce?
Good.
Really good critical question, yeah.
Back end first, but unsatisfactorily in light. Optimal grip is a philosophical term. Merleau-Ponty, I think, originally, and then picked up by cognitive scientists. But that alone, without any computational backbone, we don't really know what it means. So one of the reasons why you might want something like the mathematical suite available in predictive processing to pick up a term like optimal grip, because optimal grip is now a native concept within predictive processing. That's something we've just co-opted, and now it's center stage. What we've done is we've given some rigor to what optimization means there. So what does it mean to grip? And what does it mean to grip optimally? And why can we never satisfy a complete optimal grip? And what does that mean for us as systems? That philosophical term has been made rigorous by giving it a computational backbone. So it's a lovely concept, but it's the same for everything in psychology. You can get psychological terms or psychological ideas. And the way that psychology tends to do science is you find some particular phenomenon, and then we go try to devise some biophysical experiment to test it and to see whether it's the case. And then we say, well, look, yes, it's the case. So look, acceptance and commitment therapy looks like it has beneficial outcomes for people with depression. And look, we've done some experiments. We see that that's true. What's missing, though, still is why. And you can build a hypothesis out of it. Oh, we think it's because of this, or we think it's because of this, but you still don't have a good understanding under the hood of why exactly that intervention in that context is beneficial. Now, what you get when you start looking under the hood a little bit computationally, you said there's this sort of mathematical sweep, but we don't want to get lost in that. I don't think that's actually a worry. When you build in the mathematical undergrid, what you get are some really nice first principle reasons for understanding why exactly ACT works. And more importantly, we're seeing this in computational psychiatry everywhere today. More importantly, why doesn't it work, or when doesn't it work, or what personality types doesn't it work? And that wasn't immediately obvious when we're just going, let's check ACT on depression, and we're getting some sample size where we say, well, look, it's beneficial, but we don't know why exactly. When you start looking at it computationally, you can unearth some of the whys. That's a really powerful thing to have when you're a clinician, because you could say, oh, look, it works because depression can be an overconfidence about your inability to grip. And so ACT is specifically violating exactly that kind of model, so that we start seeing model fluidity again. That's why it works. So when wouldn't it work? Well, it's not going to work when the issue is something like model instability. If it's about model instability, then breaking models more can be problematic. I mean, it could be something like that. So it's really powerful, and computational psychiatry is, I think, almost entirely a predictive processing field right now, making computational models of psychiatric problems and outcomes.